on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's Monday morning, and it's the first day of the Democratic National Convention, which is already off to a roaring start because last night there were demonstrations in the streets, people flying Palestinian flags. I didn't see a lot of American flags, strangely. They're offering free vasectomies. I mean, they might even perform an abortion right there in prime time on the stage. They're committed to their cause, and we're all for it. Come to WMAL for your gavel-to-gavel coverage. Also coming up at 6:05, Sean Kennedy, president of Virginians for Safe Communities. What's going on with this arrest of Trayon White? Maybe he really got to the bottom of who controls the weather. It's 7:05. Joe DeGenova will be here. 7:35. Charlie Spearing is covering politics for the Daily Mail. 8:05. Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics, as the polls are shifting a bit now that people get to know Kamala Harris. And at 8:35, our friend Brent Bozell, latest media news. It's Larry O'Connor, and here for a special Monday morning appearance for the DNC is Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercedes.
For the DNC? I don't represent the DNC.
No,
I'm going to call it
that would be
Monday
bad.
Mercy. I'm glad to be here.
You are Monday Mercy, and we need a little mercy on our Mondays. Are you?
Gosh, Lord have mercy. We need a lot of mercy today.
You were in Milwaukee, of course, for the Republican convention on behalf of Newsmax, your employer of record, or one of your employers of record. Are you? You didn't get the draw for Chicago, or
I didn't. They're gonna. Newsmax is sending some reporters, and so they've decided to keep me safe. They're going to send me to New York City instead to do special coverage from 9 to 12.
Oh, all right, good. We'll
a.m. But wait a second. I just got to ask you. Do you know what that is? Going from like Chicago, that's going to be a madhouse, to like New York City, which is totally not safe.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like dreading it all.
It's not lost on any of us that you said, to keep me safe, I'm going to New York. God.
So, I'll be with Greg Kelly from 9 p.m. to
that'll be fun.
Midnight. It'll be a lot of fun.
Every night, 9 to midnight. My goodness, what a
well, I don't know if it's going to be fun, but you're going to enjoy the craziness because, see, did you go to the DNC?
I went in Philadelphia,
I was there too.
2016. That was
fascinating.
It's
the craziest experience
known
known to mankind.
And they've gotten worse.
Well, you go from forget the Pledge of Allegiance. It's like the pledge to abortion. It's kind of like if you haven't had an abortion, you can't come into the DNC. I mean, seriously, it's so crazy.
You're not a true believer.
Then you see the truckers with beards and wigs and dresses, and you're just like, and then back in 2016, the big thing was the bathroom. So they would put these paper signs outside saying all gender, that's when the craze had really started about bathrooms. And I kept going, I felt like I was in an alternate universe. I mean, inside that building.
My favorite memory of 2016, other than I believe they booed God during one of the sessions.
God, you're right. Yeah.
But I remember it because we were there first thing in the morning, right? So we're there like when the janitor crew is like getting things ready. And out in front of Radio Row, they had, a whole row of all of these separated, garbage bins. They had the regular garbage. Then they had the food stuff and the cardboard and the aluminum cans and the plastics. And they had like 8 different bins that you separated everything into because they love the planet. And then the janitor comes by from the arena there in Philadelphia with this one giant bin, and he just empties everything into the same bin as he was cleaning up. So the Democrats are all separating every damn thing on their plate and throwing it in these little recycle bins, and then it's all going to the same place. It was hilarious.
They live, I'm telling you, it is pure insanity in there. And you just don't, because you think, okay, there are, you think there would be the moderate Democrats, but they are not in charge of the asylum. They are not. I mean, it is truly the progressives, the squad, all the extremists when it comes to these issues of abortion, these issues.
The extremists
of change.
the extremist is the nominee this year. This is the most radical ticket they've ever had.
Well, and Tim Walz, I mean, he's crazier by the second. It's like, what do they give that man? He's like jumping up and down. He's like Tigger from, Winnie the Pooh.
Don't sully the good name of Tigger. We've got some observations on them and the latest from them, by the way. And you talk about moderates coming up in a couple of minutes. Maureen Dowd, of all people in the New York Times, is actually trying to speak some sanity to this ticket. So we'll get into a little of those details. But, I just flew back. I visited my father in Portland, Mercedes, and my flight stopped in Chicago on the way to D.C. And thankfully, there are no demonstrations at the airport or anything. But I got to tell you, it was hilarious. I've been to O'Hare O'Hare is
a number of times. Yeah.
Sure, you change planes in O'Hare a lot when you fly a lot of the routes that I fly to the West Coast.
Yeah.
And there were American flags everywhere.
That's interesting.
They redecorated it for the
Pride
DNC.
Month. It's all the Pride flag. So that's
right.
interesting that
they
did
of course.
that.
But it was more star spangled than I've ever seen O'Hare Airport. And I thought, this is good for the Democrats to, pretend some patriotism here and some love for our country. But apparently that was just the airport authority, because if you look at some of the videos from last night, there was a pre-convention event that went on for the Democrats that was hosted by the DNC, and on the streets outside, it's nothing but Palestinian flags. They're going to have serious issues with these Palestinian protesters. And coming up later, we're going to show you a video where they actually stormed the stage and jumped on the stage during one of these events last night.
Are you kidding? I didn't see that video.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think the DNC, the Democrats have told the media, do not cover these protests. They're basically saying, don't cover what's outside, cover what's inside.
Don't cover the news.
Which will be interesting because, I haven't had my coffee yet. I always say I start my coffee at 5:30 in the morning. Maybe I should start it at 5. But
yes.
In Milwaukee, the protests weren't that. It wasn't that bad. I don't recall anything that I could say.
I don't remember seeing any reports of major protests. I think the Palestinian types don't try to go to the Republican convention because they know they're not getting anywhere. The reason that they're all swarming on the Democrats is because they actually think they can influence them, and I think they can influence them.
Well, and it's why Kamala didn't pick Josh Shapiro at the end of the day.
Right.
Jewish governor. That apparently that would have turned off even more voters in states like Arab voters in Minnesota and Michigan, and so they
think
went
about
with
that
Tim,
for a minute.
thinking that could help bring in more of the Arab American votes.
If you call Hamas the terrorist organization that they are and the murderers that they are, that could alienate Democrat votes. Think about that for a minute.
And what's so sad is that the Jewish vote, they just stick. A lot of the Jewish voters still stick with the Democrats despite their insanity. With they're
taken for granted.
Protecting Hamas.
Well, you know why they're taken for granted? Because apparently they can be taken for granted.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trey Ward for ABC7 there in Chicago. Loop businesses prep amid DNC concerns. Some downtown Chicago business owners have already boarded up their storefronts ahead of possible civil unrest during the Democratic National Convention. They say they're concerned that properties won't be adequately protected by police. I think their concerns are well-founded.
Yeah.
The difference between...
Well, we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Larry, remember when it was President Trump's nomination and they did it in the White House? And I remember we were there and it was so loud, all the protesters outside.
Oh, yeah. Rand Paul got assaulted on his way.
Yeah, you could not safely get back to your hotel. It was horrible. And that's when you saw these businesses, they had to board up because it was so bad.
Downtown D.C. has never been the same since spring-summer of 2020, when the combination of the pandemic and the George Floyd riots and Muriel Bowser's insistence to make sure that the RNC looked like a mess because people had to be upset and people had to be angry, otherwise they couldn't win the election. Well, we're here for it, Chicago, all week long. We'll give you all the details. But coming up, you have to hear these headlines from Maureen Dowd going after Kamala Harris and actually saying the quiet part out loud, that what's transpiring this week as she takes the nomination away from Joe Biden is nothing short of a coup. Maureen Dowd, really? That's next. But first, it's 5:15 WMAL.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
It's 5:17 now. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry O'Connor and Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, there seems to be I never try to get too excited about a reliably liberal columnist actually telling the truth. They do it now and again, and it never keeps them from falling in line when they need to fall in line. But Maureen Dowd is a relatively independent thinker, and I don't think she's a big fan of Kamala Harris. And her latest headline, August 17th column, "The Dems are delighted, but a coup is still a coup." And she sort of breaks down the sort of the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, and that is that listen, you're all going to put on a big party this week, and you're all going to be celebrating Kamala Harris and this transformative ticket, but you stole this thing, and you cheated, and there's nothing democratic about this. And Sorry, but that's the reality of it. I know they're not going to pay a price for it, I suppose, except that it adds to one of the troubling aspects.
For it.
I think if you listen
Nobody
to
pays
people,
a price. Go ahead.
I think that when you listen to people's concerns about Kamala Harris and these men on the street interviews, and you see many of them, they say that they don't trust her, that she seems disingenuous, that she isn't authentic.
They're right, 100%.
Right, and this I think is this is part of that. They're not going to come out and say they stole this from Joe Biden because people don't like Joe Biden. They didn't want him anyway.
Well, here's the thing: what the Democrats do effectively is that they're able to erase history. That's always their goal. They always want to rewrite history, erase history, move it out of your short-term memory, and so you don't even long-term memory, so you don't remember it. So they moved quickly to get Biden out. I'm sure they cut a deal with Biden. They basically said, listen, I will make sure that your son will be pardoned. We will take care of you to make sure you make a lot of money on these boards, but you need to get out because these numbers look like he's going to lose. And the only obvious replacement. Now, remember, Obama did not necessarily wanted it to be Kamala Harris because he knew it was going to be problematic. So he was holding out. But then
he said that we'd have an open and transparent process. Yeah.
Yes. And then he had to jump in. And guess who's all part of the Harris campaign? The Obama people.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is rebranding her, keeping her very tight in terms of the media narrative. And it's worked so far. Is it going to be effective till the end? We'll see.
Yeah, and that's why, the Maureen Dowd headline may really catch your eye. Oh, my gosh, a coup is still a coup. But then when you read the article, even though it was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
what do you mean it was the right thing to do?
They're so full of crap.
Because Joe Biden was not going to be able to campaign, much less serve as president for another 4 years in a fully vital way.
He can't serve as president now.
It was a jaw-dropping putsch, Dowd wrote. At some point when the polls cratered, Democratic mandarins, is that what they're called? Decided to put the welfare of the party and the country ahead of the president's ego and stop catering to his self-regarding fantasy that he was the only one who could beat Donald Trump, Dowd continued. One of the most ruthless and successful tacticians in congressional history seemed sheepish about knifing her pal and conflicted over whether to take credit, of course talking about Nancy Pelosi. Et tu, Nancy, Biden must have thought. But that's not going to stop any of them from putting on this show tonight, and Biden's going to play along, and tonight will be his big night to give his valedictory address, and they're all going to treat him like he's an American hero, and they're going to start carving his face in Mount Rushmore.
No, this is like we're attending a funeral, day one, and it's going to be so painful for him, and he's going to yell in the mic, and that's why they put him on a Monday. You don't put him near the candidate, because not as many people are going to be watching on a Monday like they are on a Thursday. And that's why they did what they did. So they're going to try to be like, get Joe Biden, kick him off the stage as quickly as you can, put Michelle Obama up, Wednesday or whatever day she's going to go up, and President Obama, they are still the superstars of the party, and then end it with Kamala. That's the plan. That's how they're doing it. Look, this is going to be the most Hollywood-produced and directed convention. I'm going to tell you, Larry, they're going to make you cry.
No, it literally is.
You get to a point that you're like, wait a second here. Why am I being completely brainwashed?
And by the way, Mercedes is not, using any sort of hyperbolic rhetoric here. It's literally being staged by Steven Spielberg. This is a Steven Spielberg production. They don't even hide the fact.
I mean, we're going to see E.T. flying through in the bicycle, flying through the convention.
Or more like a T-Rex carrying a Palestinian flag.
Maybe the E.T. carries a Palestinian flag.
I don't know if Spielberg's down with the pro-Hamas crowd. That's the thing. There's definitely some cognitive dissonance here.
You never know anymore. I swear. It's just exhausting. I can't. I need my coffee.
Even though it was the right thing to do.
Even though it was the right thing to do.
Because Joe Biden was not going to be able to come in. Well, and that's the wonderful thing about this. It's like being a Democrat means never having to say you're sorry. It's like, wait, you cheated, you changed the rules, you completely switched midstream, you changed the candidates, you didn't have one person vote for it, you're pushing it through without any democratic process, but it was the right thing to do.
But they say, remember, Dowd, right, those who pushed Biden out should be proud. They saved him and their party, like you were saying. And then they were also saying that Kamala can't be thrilled that Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer hesitated to endorse her because they wanted more moderate rivals to compete in an open mini primary.
Yeah.
So you have that part, too. And people don't like Kamala, and now they're saying Kamala is drinking too much. Maybe she's drinking too much because she feels hurt that Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer didn't
Now,
really
hold on.
want
We don't like
her.
to throw unfounded rumors around here
Okay,
on WMAL.
I know,
We have
you're right.
standards here. Are you sure? Is there evidence that she's drinking too much
They're
other than his
saying the
erratic
source-
behavior
okay,
and
this is
slurring
like the
speech?
most ridiculous thing. First of all, the Democrats can come out with articles saying sources say that blah blah blah. I've seen
We have
several.
higher standards than that.
I know. I'm glad you do. We appreciate that. But when the story comes out to be true, let's have.
I
drink
don't think
over
she's
it.
a drunk. I think she's a loon. Nah, she's
think
probably a
she's a
drunk
loon.
too. She's a drunken loon. It's gonna be
Okay, well,
fun.
I'm glad you got me all. You
All
know.
right. I know. I get you riled
Keep
up.
me in
All right.
check.
We're all buckled up, ready to go. It's going to be a good morning. Keep it here. It's 5:23.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37 on this Monday morning and a busy one. It's O'Connor and Company. We're going to get to the bottom of Trayon White's arrest by the FBI. We're going to get to the bottom of the mayhem that's already started in Chicago. And we're going to try to make sense of all of it for you. Also, coming up later in the program at 6:05, Sean Kennedy is going to join us. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Charlie Spearing covering the convention for the Daily Mail. 8:05, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics. We saw some interesting shifts in the polls as people actually get to know who Kamala Harris is and what she intends to do. And then at 8:35, Brent Bozell, Media Research Center. It's going to be quite a media love fest there in Chicago. Or is it, though? We've got some other, we just talked about Maureen Dowd. The Washington Post editorial board hammered Kamala Harris for her communist price control plan. So it's an interesting little development here in this campaign. We're going to give you all the details this morning. It's Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp. Hey, Mercedes.
No, it is not Thursday, everyone. I know
No.
that you all might think it's Thursday. It's actually just Monday.
That's right. Julie Gunlock's got a few vacations. We're all trying to grab our vacation days
Or
now
vacations before.
before the home stretch. Mine's coming up. Mercy's or Julie's now. I think Patrice took hers a little earlier. She was out first week of July.
Well, it's
I
always
think.
that August time frame, but
The problem is there's no way to it's like, I don't want to miss any big developing news stories. I have a bunch of friends in the radio business who took time off like last week of June, first week of July, second week of July. What happened then? Well, you had the debate. You had the assassination attempt. You had the coup. And I was like, and that's what everyone was on vacation. Like
Yeah, but
Chris Plant missed half of that stuff.
someone told me, like Larry, someone told me it was like the best advice, which was like, like the world moves on. Like, it's okay. Like, I know you're not going to be there for some of the critical moments, but it's okay.
No,
like,
I
there's
was
so
really,
many
that's what our
critical
boss,
moments at all.
Bill Hess,
Before
Bill Hess was it because I was trying to figure out when to take vacation. He goes, Larry, there's no predicting.
There's
Just
no
go.
good time.
Just go.
Not in our business.
News will happen while you're gone. I guarantee
Yeah.
it. And when you come back, you'll just pick up. That's all you can do.
Yeah, that's what I agree with Bill on that. You just got to sometimes you need the mental rest because I tell you, Larry, I do believe Americans feel more stressed out right now than ever before. Financially, everyone I talk to so stressed out about the financial situation, and I think it's really having an impact on people's lives. Like they're trying to figure out just how to cover the basics.
I think you're right. And I think that the more people realize that and rationalize it, they'll realize that the last thing you want is 4 more years of the policies that have actually put you in this economic stress.
Yeah.
That said, now here's a perfect example. Julie's on vacation. You're in for Julie. And here's like this broke literally 25 minutes ago now. The House Oversight, Ways and Means, and Judiciary Committees have put out their report saying the evidence from their 9-month investigation establishes that Joe Biden abused his office, violated his oaths under the Constitution, and is guilty of impeachable offenses. That is breaking this morning. John Solomon at justthenews.com has the full report, 291 pages, laying out evidence of the Biden family's foreign payments, the family patriarch's role in meeting or speaking with partners. And that definitively in this investigation that Kevin McCarthy began when he was still Speaker of the House back in January, determines that the President of the United States engaged in impeachable conduct by helping to enrich his family with millions of dollars in business schemes that traded on his name and then defrauded voters by lying to cover up the scandal. Quoting now, first and foremost, overwhelming evidence demonstrates that President Biden participated in a conspiracy to monetize his office of public trust to enrich his family. It says the committee's report, which concluded last week, the investigation at least. Just as the Democrats are convening in Chicago, of course, Joe Biden will be speaking tonight. This is, by the way, Chairman James Comer, Chairman Jim Jordan, and Chairman Jason Smith, all three really stellar Republicans doing a very good. I think their CPAC scores have got to be 97 plus, the three of them.
Oh, yeah. Jim Jordan, definitely 99, I believe.
So, 99%. Mercedes, what's to be done about this? Because Joe Biden doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't matter. Well, here's the thing. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. I think this is really solid work done by the House committee. The Democrats are going to come out and basically say, this is all a political witch hunt against Joe Biden and his family. We know that just last week, it was the New York Times that finally wrote a story basically being critical of Hunter Biden and his corrupt dealings, foreign dealings, and how he became the lobbyist for some of these foreign companies and using his power and his family name to basically influence certain government officials. So
$27 million from foreign sources, according to this report.
It's not so they can try to impeach, and what are the Democrats going to do? They're going to stonewall it. It's not. It can't really. It's going to get stuck. It's not going to go anywhere. We saw this last year. We saw this last year, and there was try to move forward with impeachment. It didn't work. So this time they're going to try again.
So
I don't know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
They knew that Nancy Pelosi's impeachment wasn't going to go anywhere, but they forced members of Congress and members of the Senate who were maybe in tough states or tough districts to vote on this. I think there are multiple members of Congress who should go on the record saying that they're just fine with Joe Biden's corrupt behavior in this report, and take that back to your districts and take that back to your voters. I think the good people of
Look, I think it was
Pennsylvania
brilliant.
Would like to know how Senator Bob Casey feels about
I think it was brilliant that they
it.
released this report. The timing is excellent. I do think that all of us for over a year or more have said there has definitely been corruption that's come out of this Biden Inc., this where the family has been very involved. It seems that based on this evidence that Biden did actively participate in this conspiracy. They were attending dinners with his family's foreign associates and speaking to them over the phone. It also showed that Hunter Biden used his father's official position as vice president to garner favorable outcomes in foreign business dealings and legal proceedings. So the evidence is there. The question will be, what do they do next?
What are they going to do?
Yes, they can impeach, but the reality is that, it goes back to we'll see. I mean, everyone's so honed in on Harris that no one's really going to focus in on Joe Biden.
But that's critically important. Okay, so what is Kamala Harris going to do with this evidence? She's going to be in charge of the Justice Department. Will she set up an investigation of it?
Not at all.
Will she pardon Joe Biden? Is there a pardon deal already put in place in exchange for this outrageous coup that they were able to? These are all things that Congress should look into. Coming up in a moment, we're going to give you the details, the major bullet points that Mercedes sort of laid out there, but one thing is critically important. Joe Biden's Justice Department, while he was president of the United States, gave favorable treatment to his son during the investigation. That's the direct abuse of power and cover-up that is at the heart of this whole thing in terms of Joe Biden's behavior as president, and that's why he needs to be impeached. We'll get into those details in a moment. It's 5:44. 291-page report coming from the Oversight, the Judiciary, and the Ways and Means Committees. And I do want to applaud Comer, Jordan, and Smith. Those three chairmen have just... And by the way, he sort of doesn't get as much attention, but Jason Smith, who coordinated diligently with the IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley, that was critical to all of this because they exposed how the Justice Department, through David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, were giving a sweetheart deal to Hunter Biden. They were going to give him immunity. And Jason Smith had those whistleblowers, treated them perfectly, kept their anonymity, got their depositions without the jackals in the media knowing about it. Now, I love Jordan and Comer. They get more press than Smith does. But, boy, the way they went about this was really well done. And now they've produced their 291-page report. And, yes, it includes $8 million in loans from Democrat donors for Hunter Biden and for the Biden family. Biden's status as vice president used as a selling point to make all this money, upwards to $27 million minimum from foreign sources for the Biden family, much of it ending up in Joe Biden's bank account. But here's the key thing for Joe Biden as president. Justice Department granted favorable treatment to Hunter Biden. I'm going to read from John Solomon's report here at Just the News. The IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, who worked together on the Hunter Biden investigation, approached Congress last year with complaints that the Justice Department was improperly giving Biden preferential treatment to avoid filing charges against him. In his first letter to Congress, Shapley also asserted that DOJ officials were limiting prosecutor David Weiss's ability to pursue charges against the first son. In a public hearing before the House Oversight Committee in July 2023, that was last July, Shapley testified that Justice Department officials concealed evidence from the IRS investigative team, delayed key investigative steps for political reasons, and blocked them from pursuing any lines of investigation that involved Joe Biden. That's the cover-up. That's the abuse of power.
Yeah,
that's the use of the Justice Department to protect Joe Biden and his family's butt. And we learned about it in that hearing, if you remember, 2 weeks before the sentencing of Hunter Biden, that the judge eventually threw out because it was granting him immunity from all crimes related to this entire Biden family scheme.
So two questions. I don't mean to be the what's the word
cynical
I'm looking
one.
for? The cynical one. I hate to use the devil's advocate because I really hate the devil. But the here's the deal. Harris is your nominee. Biden's in the back burner, back seat. No one's paying attention.
You're trying to come up with the word where Joe Biden's sitting. I'll give you the word. The Oval Office, Mercedes. I don't care if he's the nominee or not.
He's on a beach chair.
He's the president of the United States.
No one cares. I'm telling you, Larry, you got to listen to me. I know you care. Republicans will care. Conservatives will care. The media will not cover this. The media will not cover this story. They will cover up for President Biden. No one cares. So unless this ends up becoming this, we'll see if the media covers it fairly and looks into this report. And you're going to have the Democrats push back saying this is a political witch hunt against Joe Biden and the family. They've done nothing wrong. The Justice Department is not going to do a thing. In fact, they've tried to discredit these whistleblowers. That's what even the Democrats have done. Wow. So the thing is that this report should have come a year ago. I hate to say it. It's like, come on, guys. How long have you been in power? You've been in power for,
They've been
for
in power
a while
for
now. And this is now,
months.
Right now, what are you talking about? August of 2024? That this is coming out.
Clearly,
and
this investigation was timed for the presidential election cycle. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, but come on, he's not the nominee anymore. It doesn't matter.
It matters to me in terms of violations of the law and violations of the Constitution.
Darling, Larry,
I don't look at everything through a political lens.
Look,
I know, darling.
No. In the violation of the laws, I totally get it. The reality is I'm just showing you on this side.
I understand the media is not going to
on the
cover
media
it.
Side.
But
Let's
I think it's worth noting, and I think the American people deserve to know before they cast their vote in November what Kamala Harris, if Kamala Harris approves of this behavior.
Okay, so this is what can I say one thing?
Of course.
Real quick. This is where I think it can matter. Is the same way Kamala Harris probably covered up for the mental decline of Biden. How much did Kamala Harris cover up for Joe Biden and all of this corruption, knowing all of this corruption and not demanding that the Justice Department investigate? That's the way to see it.
That's what I think. That's what Mercedes thinks. Coming up at 7:05, we'll find out what Joe DeGeneva, former special prosecutor himself, thinks. And speaking of the media, at 8:35, Brent Bozell on whether the media will, in fact, ignore that and whether that should matter to Republicans who care about the rule of law. It's 5:53.